Well, hi everyone. Welcome to week number 6. This is our welcome video for the week, as I do every single week. I will promise to make this one short, unlike some in the past. Just as a wrap up for our previous week, for week 5, I am working on your organizational worksheets as they come in. Also working on journal number 3 as they come in as well. I think I'm up to date right now on all the grading in the course. But as those assignments get posted, I'll review those, provide grades for you, along with a little bit of brief feedback on both of the assignments. For this week, as we move into week 6, we are going to focus on a couple of different topics, and you'll see this in the readings in your textbook. One topic we're going to focus on will be on conflict and negotiation. Now, I know we have talked about conflict before in some preceding weeks, but this week when we look at conflict, we're going to look at it from the perspective of a leader or a manager, and again, how to deal with conflict, but also how to get work products out of employees. Now, one way, obviously, you can deal with conflict is through negotiation. Mary Parker Follett tells us 3 different ways to deal with conflict. One way is domination, one way is negotiation, and one way is integration. Obviously, Follett prefers the third approach of integration. Says domination, that first approach, is by far the worst approach for dealing with conflict. Negotiation, not the best, but not the worst. It's kind of in that middle ground. We know that even though we would like to engage in a lot of integration and interpenetration, as Mary Parker Follett tells us, even in democratic organizations, that oftentimes is not possible. We have real-time concerns in terms of time pressures. We have concerns in terms of resources, the amount of political capital that leaders and managers may have, the skill set on the part of employees. There are a lot of factors that will impact our ability to truly operate a democratic organization and to truly be able to bring people together through participation to achieve that interpenetration of ideas that will eventually lead to integration. So oftentimes we can't get to the point of integration when we're dealing with conflict. So most of the time you'll see organizations deal with conflict through negotiation. So the 2 ideas of conflict and negotiation really do go hand in hand, and they really do dovetail together very well. So we'll talk about how you deal with conflict primarily through the process of negotiations. Chester Barnard tells us that effective leaders and managers are only effective if they can get the acquiescence and the compliance of their employees to produce the desired amount of effort. So again, leaders and managers provide the right set of incentives that employees value, that then motivates employees to put forth the effort to be productive. So just the very process of managing employees and leading an organization results in negotiation. So it's a really important topic, and the reason why we focus on negotiation this week. But we also know that the actions of employees and managers alike, those actions are oftentimes dictated by the structure of the organization. Organizational structure will have an impact upon employee behavior. So we'll talk about that nexus between the structure of the organization and the impact that that structure then has on the behavior of individuals within that organization. We'll return to some of the classic theorists like Weber and Taylor and the principal school theorists that we have talked about previously, and we will apply some of those theories to our discussion and our readings for this week. So we'll talk about some of those elements of a Weberian ideal bureaucracy, some of the things such as specialization of task and a scalar chain and a unity of command and division of labor and all those tall hierarchy, all those types of classical elements of a bureaucratic organization. We'll talk about those in terms of how they create the structure of our modern day organizations, and then what impact that structure then has on behavior. What impact structure will then have on the creation of a conflict within the organization, and how structure affects the way in which leaders and managers then respond to that type of conflict. So we're kind of melding together a focus on structure, as well as a focus on behavior. So how does structure affect behavior? And then it is a two-way street. So how then does the behavior of employees, the feedback from that behavior, then affect the restructuring of the organization? Because clearly the behavior of employees can then have an impact upon how we go back and restructure our organizations. Now, the type of organization we work in will have a big impact upon structure. And you have seen that in some of the assignments you've done up to this point in this class. And you've seen that in a lot of the feedback I've given you. I know in the assignments you had for week 5, in a lot of the feedback I'm providing in both the organizational worksheet as well as the journal assignment, a lot of that feedback has been looking at the type of the organization impacting the culture of the organization, the type of the organization affecting the norms of the organization. So for instance, I know we have several folks who work in paramilitary organizations, either in a sheriff's department, fire department, some type of organization that kind of has that paramilitary structure. Those types of organizations, we are going to see a lot of those classical structural elements. A lot of those classical structural elements will then have an impact upon the behavior of employees. So if you're in a paramilitary organization that has all these things like scalar chain and span of control, unity of command, tall hierarchy, all those structural elements will then have an impact upon how the members of the organization behave and the expected behaviors and the expected norms of those individuals. And so I kind of hope that you can see as we go through each week, not only are we building from one week to the next, but we do reach back into preceding weeks and bring some of that information we've already covered and then apply it to the topic at hand for that given week. So those are your readings that you're going to be doing for this week. In addition, for this week as well, you also have a third quiz. I know those are not fun, but you'll have a third quiz to do for this week. You'll also then start putting together your final critical assignment, your final paper, putting together an outline for that paper and kind of getting ready for that final paper submission that's going to be coming up a lot sooner than a lot of us would probably like to think about or actually admit to. So you'll be working on putting the structure and the outline of that paper together. And then you also start giving some thought to preparing for the final exam. Again, a great way to prepare for a final exam is to go back through the quizzes and take a look at the quizzes and the questions you got right and questions you got wrong on the quizzes. And going back through those quizzes and reviewing that information will be a great way then for you to prepare for the final exam that, again, is coming up rather quickly, a lot quicker than a lot of us would like to admit. So again, I kept this really brief, but that's kind of in a nutshell, an overview of week number 6. As always, feel free to send me an email if you have any questions or any concerns. I should be in town for all of this week. I will be going out of town next weekend, but we'll still have access to email and access to the course to check in and respond to any questions you have. So either by email, or you can also use the Q&A form in the discussion area of the site. Either way is fine. I'm happy to answer any questions you have. So hope everyone has a really good week, and I'll talk to you again in our next welcome video for week number 7. So have a great week.